Hello, everyone. My name is Christian Eschbach, and welcome to another one of my album reviews. Hi, everyone. This will end up throwing under album reviews. I'm not exactly sure how I'll get licensed. I'll list it in other stuff, for playlists and whatnot. This is album reviews, but not album reviews. If you're one of my regular viewers, the last episode I did related to music and albums and whatnot would have been talking about compilation collections of albums, not box sets, not, collections of greatest hits, collections of albums, the complete Iron Butterfly collection, for example, or, David Bowie's Zeit 77 through 79 being all the albums that were released in there. The Geezer Butler set, which has got Geezer Butler's 3 solo albums plus a great bonus disc of stuff. So I covered all that in my last discussion review related like this. This one, I want to talk about box sets. Now, no one does box sets anymore, really. They were huge when CDs really first started booming and coming out. The very first box set that I recall ever being released, ever being advertised, anything like that, being this one here, Led Zeppelin's box set. This is my oldest box set. I have had this one. I did not get it as soon as it came out. I wanted it when it first came out. I started asking for it when it first came out. And the year of release on here is 1990. So yeah, I started asking for this around 1990. Did not have a CD player yet. I was fine with getting the cassette version of this. My Uncle Greg eventually bought it for me for Christmas. I think he actually bought it so he could, make a copy of it for himself, and then he gave it to me for afterwards, which is totally fine, and I am absolutely 100% okay with this, because to be given this is a fantastic thing. We are talking about this, though. I did not get it for probably a solid 3 years after it came out, because I didn't even get my first CD player until 92, and then I got this after that. I want to say I probably got this as my gift somewhere around 93, 94. No later than 95. Now, this was the first box set, it was kind of the template for everything that way. One, all the music was remastered. That was actually a big deal. This was a big selling point. This was actually advertised on regular television. I remember seeing the ads on TV for this when this was coming out. And they were, there are different versions of track. There's a few previously unreleased tracks on here. Traveling Riverside Blues, Hey, Hey, What Can I Do, White Summer, Black Mountainside, and Moby Dick Bonzo's Montreux. And that particular one... Okay, so Traveling Riverside Blues was previously unreleased. Hey, Hey, What Can I Do was previously unavailable on album. White Summer, Black Mountainside was previously unreleased, and Moby Dick Bonzo's Montreux previously unreleased in this form. Everything else on here had been on one of the albums before. So basically, this was kind of like getting 4 greatest hits albums with a couple little extras in it. And then you got this gorgeous full color booklet in here with this wonderful story and whatnot in here, all talking about the music, the band, stuff like that. I probably actually haven't read this since I first got it. I probably should go back and reread it. It's been a long time. Wonderful set. But this was so you didn't have to go out and buy all the Zeppelin albums if you didn't want to. This is what you bought so you could avoid buying all the Zeppelin albums, get every great Zeppelin song you could ever want, and then a few extras for the fans, So if you already had everything on vinyl, you didn't have to rebuy everything on vinyl. You could at least have most of the songs you wanted just on those 4 discs, because let's face it, you fit most of them on there. The interesting part is they were not put on here in any type of chronological order, because the very first song on the very first disc is Whole Lot of Love, but that was the first track off of Zeppelin 2, not a track off Zeppelin 1. Using the Zeppelin format, you also got box sets like Aerosmith's Pandora's Box, which I have not reviewed yet. I really do got to get around to doing it. Same idea. It's mostly greatest hits. It had more alternate or previously unreleased songs. A lot of them were just alternate takes. Some were some early singles, which were cool, stuff like that. But for the most part, the Aerosmith box set only expanded a little bit off of what Zeppelin did with theirs. Also, the Aerosmith Pandora's Box set. Another major thing, also, I should point out here. In the case of Zeppelin, Zeppelin was done over. There was never going to be another Zeppelin album again. So them releasing a box set in this context totally made sense. Aerosmith, their box set, the Pandora, they did 2 box sets actually. Their first box set, the Pandora's Box set, was basically just the Columbia albums. So you're talking about the classic Aerosmith up until 1980. I think maybe Done with Mirrors might have been included with it. I don't remember 100% to tell you the truth. We're going to say that it went right up to before it stopped at Permanent Vacation. There was nothing from Permanent Vacation or later. The real Geffen years. Nothing from the real Geffen years on there. And then they released the I think it might have been called Box of Fire. I don't remember what the second box set was called from Aerosmith, and it was every album. I never picked that one up because I had already had the Pandora's Box set, and I didn't want to go out and get every album. It just didn't make sense. Especially since I had all the modern stuff already, and then I had Pandora's Box set to cover most of the older stuff, and then I even owned, which I've already reviewed, the Toys in the Attic album. So, okay, where I'm trying to go with this is there wasn't a lot going into box sets at that point. It was, 3 to 4. In the case of Nugent, even, it was 2 discs. And I'll come back to Nugent because Nugent's a little bit different as well, because Nugent's actually went up to almost everything he had released at that point as a solo artist. His was the most up-to-date one until Alice comes out, but I'll come back to that. Okay. So with those, you get most of the extra previously unreleased stuff you would get would be live tracks. You'd get rarities, early single stuff like that, which weren't readily available and hadn't been readily available for decades, which would be cool that way as well. But that would be it. That was the standard kind of idea and format behind that. Then you get to Alice Cooper's The Life and Crimes. First off, the box set is designed to have an actual cool look to it, You had the little prison here, got inside, whatnot. That's nifty on its own. You got the booklet inside there, which is standard issue for, all the box sets and all that fun stuff as well. Now, I don't actually keep any of my CDs in their jewel cases in the box sets because I just don't. And apparently, I don't know how, it looks like mine took a little moisture damage on the corners here in the book, which is a little upsetting. I mean, somewhere along the way, someone spilt something on my book and got a little damage on there. The reason why I even bring out the book in this case is that is autographed by Alice himself. I watched Alice autograph that, so I know that is the genuine article right there. Got this autograph the year it came out. It was the second thing I got autographed from Alice. First one was my copy of Lace and Whiskey. And if you want the story on that, go watch my review for Lace and Whiskey. But the Alice Cooper box set, the nice part about this is it was 4 discs, but there was a lot more bonus material per se. A lot of early singles, like I mentioned before that happens. Alternate versions, studio versions, demo versions of early stuff, later stuff. They put a lot of single versions on here to help cut down on time a little bit to get more content into there. When you get into disc 2 and 3 in particular, you really start running into some extras that you really want, and that's really cool as well. I'm not going to get into that because I'm not doing reviews of this particular box set at the moment. I will get to it. But to me, it felt like there was a lot more demo stuff, a lot more earlier stuff. I really wish there's stuff from this time period that this covers. Now, this one goes up to what would have been present day at this time, which would have been right up to the A Fistful of Alice, the live album that he had released at the end of the epic Sony run, kind of. And the representation from that album on here would be the single Is Anyone Home? There's a lot of cool stuff on here that's really fun to have. I'm really glad they put it on here. This is one of my favorite box sets, besides it being Alice, but for the reason of a lot of the bonus content on here. I actually like the bonus content. And the extras and bonus content, the more you put on here, the better it is. Like when you get the Levity Ball, for example. Now, I don't like the version on here. It's the original studio version of Levity Ball. I don't like it. I think the best version of Levity Ball that was ever released is the one that was off the Live at the Whiskey A Go-Go album. But it's great to have an actual studio version of it because the studio version never got released for some weird reason. There's a demo version of Nobody Likes Me on here. Nobody Likes Me has never been released on an official Alice Cooper album. It's been released on the Nobody Likes Me album, also known as Science Fiction, also known as Freak Out, also known as about a million other names. Most known as the Toronto Rock and Roll Revival Festival, 1969. That is where everybody knows Nobody Likes Me from. This is the first time you got a demo version of it, which was fantastic. Other songs on here that you don't readily get, or if you're an Alice Cooper fan, you don't want to go out and buy the other album that it's on because you don't necessarily want all the other stuff that's on there. Because Alice's cover of Because from the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band movie starring the Bee Gees. Yeah, I've watched it once, never again. Spawned one of the greatest covers of all time, and no, it is not Because. It's actually Aerosmith's version of Come Together. Other ones that are then there's tracks on here that were never released, like there's No Tricks featuring Betty Wright. This is one of the coolest songs I have ever heard, and I am heartbroken that I had never ever gotten to hear before. Like as far as I know, it was never released on anything before this. Let's see what else you got. The movie Monster Dog. Okay, in North America, it would have been a straight-to-video kind of schlock horror movie kind of thing. Alice is a werewolf and out killing people and stuff like that. Funny part is if you watch it, it's not Alice's voice because it was recorded for, I believe, if Filipino or an Italian audience, definitely a foreign audience. So it had to be dubbed into the foreign language, but they didn't keep the original vocal tracks. So when they brought it back to North America, instead of having the original vocal tracks, they had to redub everything. But the two Alice Cooper songs that were on there, which is Identity Crisis and See Me in the Mirror, got included on here. There's no master tapes. They had to take it off the movie, which really kind of sucks. But at least we have representation. So it's stuff like that that really makes this box set worthwhile, especially as a fan or a collector, because all the other stuff on here is kind of like, well, I already have the albums, or I'm already going to go out and get the albums, because most of the 70s stuff, most people I know actually buy most of the 70s albums, with the exception of maybe... or the original band album, the original band 70s albums, with the exception of the Muscle of Love album, most people I know buy those out, all of those. Another one on here, two other songs, I'm Flash and Space Pirates from Flash Fearless versus the Zorg Women. you never would have heard of this otherwise. Like if you're an old school fan who grew up during the 70s and you remember this coming out, that's one thing. But as someone who, like me, I was born in the 70s, but I grew up listening to the 80s, the 90s, and forward. This was my first major exposure to it, and actually, I really should get my hands on that album. I can't believe I still haven't after all these years. And it goes on like that with other versions on here. There is stuff that I know that was recorded this time that was not put on here, and a lot of that comes down to just clearing the rights with other artists, stuff like that. Like there was quite a bit of Bon Jovi stuff, believe it or not, from the Trash era, stuff like that. There was also a lot of issues from what I heard behind the scenes with putting that album together because a lot of it, the music was owned by Warner or a division of Warner Music. Right up until 1983. Then you get to the MCA years for a couple albums, and then you go over to the Epic Sony years. And that's a whole different ball game. And the Epic Sony years, my understanding, was a bit of the holdup on there. Now, with all this talking about box sets, this is a weird box set to bring up at this point, and I've actually reviewed this box set. The Wish You Were Here box set. Now, this is not a box set like those are box sets, where these are all collections. Everything I've talked about so far has been like greatest hits collections. This box set, on the other hand, is a box set because it comes in a box and is a special set with a bunch of extra collector stuff in it. But what it is it is the Wish You Were Here album, and then there are alternate albums with alternate takes or alternate versions of the album, being ones that are, playable in different formats, stuff like that. This is for your hardcore collector, your hardcore fan. I'm a huge fan of the Wish You Were Here album. It's my favorite Pink Floyd album, which is why it's the only one of these box sets I have, the immersion box sets. So this is a special hardcore one that is meant just for the fans. I believe my buddy Drew has Dark Side of the Moon, and he might have the one for The Wall. I don't remember. I'd have to double check on those. I really should, because I should do reviews for those eventually too. But moving on from that. Now, going with what I said about the Alice box set with all the bonus and that stuff in there, and I've already reviewed this one as well, we're talking about the Ozzy Osbourne Prince of Darkness set. This one Ozzy made almost exclusively for the fans, because there are the greatest hits on here, and you can hear them in the regular version, like you got Crazy Train's basic, you got Mr. Crowley, which is basic. A lot of this is a lot of live renditions. Some cases they're demos, and some they were never released before tracks. There's also, so disc 1 and disc 2 is everything from the beginning of Blizzard of Oz right up to the, I don't even remember the name of that album that came off of. The one after Osmosis, yeah. The one that had Dreamer on it. Yeah. Anyways, where I'm going with that is, so you got 2 discs that cover Ozzy's stuff up until a certain year. After that, actually, it might just be up to the Perry Mason album now that I think about it. Sorry. Okay. After that, though, you've got 2 more discs. And the next 2 discs are, the first disc is songs that he's collaborated with other artists on. Like, for example, you've got Iron Man with Therapy, NIB with Primus, Purple Haze with Zakk Wylde, Randy Castillo, and Geezer Butler, Pictures of Matchstick Men with Type O Negative. So that's the third disc. The third disc is all Ozzy teaming up with other artists, which is really, really cool. And then the fourth disc was recorded specifically just for this box set, because the fourth disc is a disc of covers. Now, I do have one complaint about that, because Ozzy ended up releasing all the covers on a separate disc outside of this set with extra covers on there. There's one or two that are on here exclusively, one or two that are on the other disc exclusively. So I don't like the manipulation that Sharon pulled there, which forces people to have to go buy extra stuff. All those tracks really should have just been on this particular album itself. But I really like that Ozzy put this one together for the fans, because this one was made for the fans. So you actually were getting new stuff. You were getting different stuff. A lot of the, team up stuff, I had some of it already. I had about 50% of it already. But I didn't have the other 50%, and it's great to have it now. It's really cool to listen to, and some of it I listen to on a regular basis still. All right, now I've also covered this box set before as well too, which is the Bonfire box set. This is the original release of the Bonfire box set, and amazingly, they did a re-release of the Bonfire box set, and it's really cool to see that they did a re-release. I don't think they do enough re-releases of box sets. And this is one of those ones that definitely deserved it because of all the content in here. My only complaint about the Bonfire box set is the fact that they put the Back in Black album in it. Now, it's cool that it was a digitally remastered version, which was great because at that point there wasn't a digitally remastered version of it. Really cool. But kind of unnecessary as far as I'm concerned. With this, you get the Live from the Atlantic Studios, the Volts album, and then you've also got the Let There Be Rock, the movie Live in Paris. So the Live from the Atlantic Studios is literally that. The band was playing at the Atlantic Studios. It was being broadcast, I think, over the air. They recorded everything live off the floor. It's got a really cool vibe that way. But you never had access to any of this stuff on compact disc before, except for the Back in Black album. Some of it you had access to, but not a lot. The Let There Be Rock, the movie Live in Paris, you could get on VHS and watch it on VHS, but the concert itself was never available on compact disc prior to that. The only AC/DC Live on compact disc or vinyl prior to this would have been the If You Want Blood album and the live album, the one that's actually called Live. Volts was a disc just of alternate cuts, B-sides, songs that were never released in North America, stuff like that. And then Back in Black. There were a couple exceptions on Volts that were released in other ways, but for the most part, so this whole entire set, for the most part, with the exception of Back in Black and Ride On, was never available on album before. So this was built 100% purely for the fans to get maximum Bon Scott enjoyment. My biggest complaint, like I said, would be the fact that Brian Johnson was in it with the Back in Black album. I get why they did it, and they explain even why they put it in there, which is cool. And all of these sets, they all come with booklets, and the different booklets in different ways, doing different things. I love when they include song-by-song breakdowns in the booklets, because Alice has got song-by-song breakdown, Ozzy's got song-by-song breakdown. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and check the Bonfire booklet. It's been a while. I believe the Zeppelin booklet may or may not. When I just thumbed through it, I don't remember seeing a song-by-song breakdown, but I could be wrong. So, song-by-song, okay. Let me go this way now. Sorry, hold on. When you're putting together these box sets, to me, let's get into the do's and don'ts. One, include a booklet. Booklets are really cool. Song-by-song breakdowns are great. Artists giving, 3 or 4 sentences on why they're leaving this song on this collection, to me, is a really cool, nice, personal touch in there, and I think is really important. Include bonus material. Include lots of bonus material. The Zeppelin box set, it was the first box set, and it came out in a very transitional time period. Doing remastering, stuff like that, putting it on CD, that was new. CDs were still new. I mean, you got to figure the Zeppelin box set was released in 1990. At that point, CDs were only mainstream for 2 years. did CDs exist before 88? I believe there were CDs before 88. However, they were not mainstream at that point. When this came out, it came out in three formats. It came out in a vinyl format, it came out in a cassette format, and it came out in a compact disc format. I never would have gotten a vinyl format because records were on their way out, but for the people who wanted it in vinyl, that option would have been there, and it would have been remastered, which would have been cool. But the bonus material wasn't there. So, outside of that, I'd really want the bonus material. And now you can go out and get the Zeppelin albums totally remastered and a ton of bonus material on them, which is really cool. And I've talked about it with the Physical Graffiti album, which I've reviewed. So, as the first one, that one gets excused. Every album after that, where pretty much it was like a greatest hits compilation with a booklet, and that was kind of it, that was for the people who didn't want to have to rebuy everything, and that's how I leave it. After that, though, it got to a point where there were some that really didn't understand how to put these sets together, because there are other box sets out there that just have a bunch of crap on there that nobody wants. Like, nobody's that big of a diehard fan. The Alice Cooper set was great because you got stuff mixed in. The other thing I like about the Alice Cooper set is it is all done, with one exception, chronologically for the most part. One glaring exception being the very end of the box set. It finishes with, what is it, Stolen Prayer, I believe. I gotta go back, double check here really fast. Yeah, the album finishes with Stolen Prayer, whereas Is Anyone Home actually was the last album or the last song released at that point. So, that was really cool there. But I don't think the chronology is 100. Chronology is cool to follow through to get the history, and I like that in the Ozzy one too. I don't think it's 100% necessary though, because I really do think that with all the bonus material, I do like what Ozzy did. I do like, not just Ozzy, I like what Geezer Butler did too. I do like having all the bonus material on a completely separate disc. I think that's really, really good and really great to have and really useful that way. Because that way you could just listen to the bonus material. Like, there's a lot of, there's a disc worth of just bonus material on the Alice set. And I would listen to just that disc worth if it was completely on its own and, like that. So to me, I think doing that is a really big deal. I think if you're going to, do all the greatest hits in chronological order in, one or two discs, up to three if you have to, and then do one disc just of the bonus material. I will say with the Alice Cooper set as well that I think that they should have gone with 4 discs instead of 3. And I also believe that they made a mistake with using jewel cases as opposed to doing cardboard sleeves or whatnot, because there wasn't much fancy going on with the Alice Cooper set. And it's just a basic black tray that's in there holding it. The Zeppelin set has a nice little foam padding in there that the CDs sit in and whatnot, so they don't get jostled around and they'll be around so much. The Alice Cooper one is just a plastic tray they sit in, and it really doesn't, having it as CDs really didn't make it worth, I like in jewel cases as opposed to a different type of case or whatnot, didn't make it worthwhile. I think they should have done something a little bit different that way. And, that goes with the AC/DC one too, where they had, extra discs. Everything was kind of broken up in discs. And I think that's really cool, and I think that's the way that it should be done. But, and then there is a box set I do own that I did not mention at all, and that is the Metallica Live Shit Binge and Purge box set, which is a whole different thing on its own. And Live Shit Binge and Purge doesn't fall under box set like these box sets do to me, because the record company my understanding was the record company was really pushing Metallica to release a box set. At that point, they had only had 5 albums out. Releasing a box set was kind of silly because you would just be getting the first 5 albums, basically. So what Metallica did is they went out and they released a special box set all of its own. They used 3 live. You had 3 live shows, plus you got 3 VHS cassettes, Two of the cassettes were the exact same show, which kind of lined up with the CDs. They weren't the same show as the CDs, but they kind of lined up with the CDs. And then the third cassette was actually an older concert that had been filmed during the And Justice for All tour. So, whereas the rest was filmed and recorded during the Black Album tour. So it was really, really cool to, for Metallica to do that. But it was not a box set in any sense like any of these other box sets were. It was a box set in the fact that it was just a big giant box, and my box is really beat up over the years, unfortunately, due to moving, kids, me being a kid when I first got it, stuff like that. It's pretty beat up, which is why I don't take it out. I don't want people to see how bad it looks. But it really is one of those things that after all these years, like I think you can buy the CDs separately now. They don't even look like that. But if you look at the case here, you can see I got a big crack through the case. I keep the case separately with my actual Metallica album, stuff like that. This was really cool when this was released. It was the first Metallica anything I even got. And I started off with a greatest hits package a live greatest hits package of like every song that you want to hear from them. I've rambled on this, so what I'm going at is, if bands are ever going to go back to doing box sets again, which I really think is something that could come back out. There are a lot of bands out there that could do some really good, proper box sets. And I'm not talking put every one of your CDs in there kind of thing. Maiden's released a few box sets. I don't own any of them. Their singles B-sides box set was the only one I'd ever be interested in, and it's the hardest one to get a hold of because it was the only one that everybody wanted, and I bought a bunch of the singles separately. So anyways, Motorhead's got one or two box sets as well. Even Lemmy said with one of them, don't pick it up. Yeah, so you got to be really careful with what box sets you want, but I think box sets are something that really do need to start coming back again, especially considering CDs are apparently starting to pick back up in sales again, which is good to hear. But if they're going to do box sets, make it worthwhile for the fans. You either make a box set, a beginner starter box set, like Aerosmith's Pandora's Box is a great starter box set. Ted Nugent's Out of Control box set is a great starter box set. What I mean by starter is it's like picking up an expansive greatest hits album, so you can even refine and pick out what era you'd rather focus on for albums you might be more interested in. Basically, it's a gateway drug. The Zeppelin box set falls the same way too. To me, you pick that one up, that's a gateway drug. You get everything you need in one go, and if you need more, you go buy more. The Alice Cooper box set is not your gateway drug. Your Alice Cooper box set is a great example of a box set for the fans. The Ozzy Prince of Darkness box set and the AC/DC Bonfire box set are also even more expansive and better versions of for the fans. So to me, that's kind of where you got to go with box sets. You either make a gateway drug box set or you make a box set that is truly for the fans. The other thing that goes with that too, though, is if you're gonna do a box set and you're still a very active and going band, do a box set that's honestly a little more worthwhile. The Alice Cooper box set, I've had this discussion with many people, and for me, I like that the MCA era is on here with the Alice Cooper box set, and that's really cool. Because you do get the demo version of He's Back, which is completely different than He's Back, the Man Behind the Mask from the Constrictor album. And you do get I Got a Line on You, which was actually from the Friday the 13th soundtrack, at least in the movie, but was not... I Got a Line on You was previously from Iron Eagle 2, the motion picture Iron Eagle 2. My apologies. They left out the track from the other track, Hard Rock Summer. That was it. They left out Hard Rock Summer off here for some weird reason. And And Hard Rock Summer was eventually made available. But if they had left out if they left out Poison, Trash, Only My Heart's Talking, Hey Stupid, Feed My Frankenstein, Fire, Lost in My America, It's Me, Hands of Death, Is Anyone Home, and Slower Prayer, if they left those out, they could have put in other tracks that just had not been readily available. And I think I would have rather have had those. Because other than Hands of Death, which was off of a compilation album, and most of the songs on there weren't worthwhile, to be honest, I'm not even a really fan of this one. This was even a remix because Rob Zombie remixed it because he wasn't even a fan of what ended up going on it was an X-Files album. I personally, outside of that track, there was nothing else on here that was worthwhile. It was just cuts from the album that had already been released. So I would have liked more older bonus material. I think Alice could do another box set even now. I'd love to be able to put together another box set but I would do it differently. I would go back to this box set again. I would take all the demo bonus stuff, blah, 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 all the previously unreleased or not readily available stuff that was not off one of the albums. I put it on one disc. That would be disc one, and it would be, flashback of the rarities kind of thing. Just because this set's not readily available anymore. So unless they're going to reissue that set. If you're going to reissue that set, then don't do it. But if you're not going to reissue that set, then take all the rarities, put all the rarities onto one album. And then I would do more albums of rarities, and then I would do the newer stuff that was all released after this album. That's what I would do personally as a follow-up box set, because Alice has released enough material since then, way more than enough material to do another box set. And I'm sure there's got to be a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that was never released, because I know there's a lot of stuff that's never been released and really does need to be released. I've personally talked to Cheryl Cooper, and Cheryl Cooper herself has told me there is one particular song called I believe it was Man About the House, that she's upset has never been released because she absolutely loves the song and she thinks it's a wonderful song. I've never gotten to hear the song. I absolutely would love to hear the song. One of the cool parts about getting to hang out with Cheryl Cooper one night. Anyways, folks, I've rambled on and on and on. So where I'm going here is, if you're going to make a box set, the key thing, you either make it for the fans or you make it as a gateway drug. The good, the bad, the ugly. Have a great booklet in it. Do something interesting. Really make it worthwhile for people to pick up. That's it. Okay, folks. Peace. Oh, wait. Hold on. Comments. Let me know what you think. That is important. That's always an important thing. Like button, subscribe button, bell for notifications. Those are important as well. There's a link down below to TWA Wrestling, as well as my Patreon. Peace. Love. Take care.